So students, today we are going to discuss gastroesophageal reflux disease. Okay. You see what happens, basically the lower esophagus has got a bit of increased pressure which prevents food from the stomach to reflux into the esophagus normally. Okay, about 3 to 4 centimeter of intra-abdominal esophagus is there. And after we eat, there's a little bit of increased pressure is there at the level of lower esophagus, that is at the level of esophagogastric junction. Okay, in gastroesophageal reflux disease, what happens that food refluxes into the esophagus, mostly after patient has eaten. Because of that, normally because there is a transient relaxation of lower esophageal sphincter pressure to let the air which has been swallowed to escape, okay, or during vomiting and all. But this transient relaxation slowly becomes more severe, more is constantly relaxed. Even when patient has eaten or not eaten, that relaxation is there and food goes into the esophagus. Okay, so there are basically three factors: the intra-abdominal length of esophagus, a bit of increased pressure, and the angle. They all prevent the reflux. In gastroesophageal reflux disease, the patient has persistent low pressure there and food refluxes into the esophagus and can cause a variety of symptoms. And the symptoms can be heartburn, and patient can have discomfort, heartburn, isn't it? This reflux can be so severe that it can come into the mouth and give a bitter sensation in the mouth as well, and sometimes it can be swallowed and it can go into the larynx and trachea and lung even, and cause laryngitis, pharyngitis, and even pneumonitis. Okay, and it can also damage the enamel of the teeth. The reflux can be so severe. So patient has basically heartburn, regurgitation. Later on, patient can develop odynophagia, that is pain during difficult swallowing. Pain, or patient can have even dysphagia. Dysphagia usually means patient has got stricture now. It is so severe that stricture has developed. Okay. So the symptoms can be heartburn, regurgitation, discomfort, can be odynophagia, that is pain during swallowing, or in later on dysphagia or difficulty in swallowing. Patient can also have chest pain. This is one of the important causes of non-cardiac chest pain. Okay, the reflux can cause that pain also in the chest. And of course, the extra GI symptom which I told, it can damage your teeth and enamel, and can also involve respiratory system and cause laryngitis, pharyngitis, and pneumonia, etc. And cough, chronic cough can occur because of the reflux. So reflux can cause so many things. So how do we diagnose reflux? Reflux, basically we do an upper GI endoscopy. Okay, upper GI endoscopy will show you the changes which has occurred because of the reflux, that is esophagitis. There might be a bit of erythema at the GE junction. We graded it to grade 1, where mucosal inflammation is there, small mucosal inflammation is there, and it gradually increases and progresses to even stricture, and Barrett's, when we call it grade 4 complications. So that will show you the manifestation of reflux. And other investigation which we can do is 24-hour pH monitoring. As I told you, a probe is positioned about 4 to 5 centimeter above the GE junction, and the reflux of gastric content will lead to change in pH, and that pH will be recorded by that electrode which is connected to a computer on your belt, and then that is analyzed and seen. So pH monitoring is one, and also another important investigation is esophageal manometry, where another transducer is placed at the GE junction and the pressure at the GE junction is monitored. Whenever the pressure goes down, it will be monitored by that. So consistent low pressure will be seen in gastroesophageal reflux disease. These investigations also help in excluding other serious pathologies like esophageal carcinoma, which can also lead to dysphagia and all. And another important differential diagnosis is achalasia cardia. In achalasia cardia, the similar symptoms occur, but they're like more like difficulty in swallowing and pain, chest pain. But in when you do a pH monitoring in reflux disease, there will be of uh, uh, reflux, burst of reflux will occur, which will lead to sudden drop in the pH. Whereas in achalasia, this undulation is less. It's a sort of a mild undulation is there. Whereas in reflux disease, the burst of these pH changes will be there. Also in manometry, there will be increased pressure in achalasia, whereas in reflux disease, there is low pressure. So, upper GI endoscopy, 24-hour pH monitoring, and esophageal manometry is the investigation which we do in gastroesophageal reflux disease. So, how do you manage these patients? Management involves three things actually. First is lifestyle modification, second is medical treatment, then comes the role of surgical treatment. What is lifestyle modification which can be done here? Lifestyle, like somebody if is obese, we advise them to lose weight because obesity leads to increased reflux. Somehow the lower esophageal sphincter pressure is decreased in these patients. So weight loss is one. Another is factor is avoiding the triggering factors like smoking, alcohol, spicy food, excess of tea, coffee. They are all shown to increase reflux. So we advise them to cut down on these things. Third is taking frequent small meal. Taking one large meal has been shown to increase the reflux. Frequent small meals will help these patients. And another thing is we advise them not to go to bed just after having their dinner. Okay, like they must at least 2 to 3 hours before going to bed they should take their dinner. Okay, so these things usually help. Also, we advise them to increase the head end of the bed by about 8 inches. Okay, head end of the bed is increased so that during night the nocturnal reflux which occurs can be prevented. Okay, taking extra pillow will not help. You have to raise the head end of the bed by 8 inches so the nocturnal reflux which occurs is prevented. So these are the ways, lifestyle modification. Medical treatment, proton pump inhibitor are the mainstay of the treatment. Okay, omeprazole, rabeprazole, lansoprazole, esomeprazole, these proton pump inhibitors which inhibit the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump on the parietal cell of the stomach and leads to significant reduction in the acidity. These PPI will help the patients. We usually give a 8 weeks course of the treatment. If normal dose of PPI not working, we give the double dose of PPI morning, evening. Like suppose rabeprazole 20 milligram early morning is given and is not helping, then we can increase it to BD, twice daily dose for 8 weeks. Or you can add the S2 receptor blocker to PPI, that also leads to more significant reduction in acidity. Okay, so this is how we treat this patient. Then comes the role of surgical treatment. Basically, surgery is not that successful in gastroesophageal reflux disease. So we have to choose the surgical patients very carefully. Those patients who have medical treatment, but the failure of medical treatment or non-compliance, or if patient wishes that no, they can't go on taking medication, uh, or very severe complications of gastroesophageal reflux disease has occurred, then these patients go for surgery. So what are the surgery we do? Basically in surgery, we take care of three things. Okay, intra-abdominal length of esophagus. Second is narrowing the esophageal hiatus, the crura there, and third is making some sort of valve there, or wrapping around the stomach at the GE junction to prevent the reflux. See, once you pull down the esophagus a little bit, 3-4 centimeter of intra-abdominal esophagus length helps in preventing gastroesophageal reflux disease. Then, if the hiatus has increased and sliding hiatus hernia is occurred, see, gastroesophageal reflux disease is very commonly associated with hiatus hernia also. Sliding hiatus hernia, where the GE junction goes up into the mediastinum, is pulled up, or in paraesophageal hernia, rarely, where the GE junction is normally present but part of the fundus herniates. So what we do, we pull down the esophagus, we tighten the crura with non-absorbable suture, and then what we do, we wrap around the fundus of the stomach and to the lower part of the GE junction. The wrapping can be partial or it can be total 360 degree. The most popular operation these days for gastroesophageal reflux disease is laparoscopic floppy Nissen fundoplication. Okay, laparoscopic floppy means we make it loose, floppy Nissen fundoplication, 360 degree wrap. What we do, in between the lesser curvature and greater curvature in the center, we take hold of the stomach and we wrap it around the lower esophagus and stitch it. Okay, a 360 degree wrap is made around the lower esophagus, and this acts as a valve and prevents the reflux of acid into the esophagus. So floppy Nissen fundoplication is the procedure of choice. Okay. Basically, we introduce a 52 French or 51 French tube inside the esophagus and make sure that the esophagus is not constricted before making this Nissen fundoplication. Okay, because if it is very tight, gas bloat syndrome occurs. That is, after meal, the air which patient swallows is trapped. It gives a feeling of early satiety, distension of abdomen, and pain. That gas is not erected out. So, a floppy Nissen fundoplication is very important. Okay. So what we do, we maintain the length of esophagus, we tighten the crura and make a floppy 360 degree fundoplication. Done laparoscopically is preferred these days, but it can also be done by an open method, open laparotomy. Okay, so this is how you treat gastroesophageal reflux disease. The complication of gastroesophageal reflux disease, in severe cases it is a stricture. Stricture can occur, and it can also lead to metaplasia at the GE junction called Barrett's esophagus, which we will discuss later. Thank you.